Let's set the scene first, because the final itself was a tense, cagey affair. Argentina came into the match as defending champions, having ground out a string of narrow, gritty wins to get here, including a dramatic late comeback against England in the semifinal. Spain arrived as the form team of the tournament, playing some of the most fluid football on show. For 90 minutes plus extra time, though, neither side could find real rhythm. Argentina, in particular, struggled badly going forward. Remarkably, despite being one of the tournament's highest-scoring sides on the way to the final, they failed to register a single shot on target in the whole match. Spain's breakthrough came from substitute Ferran Torres, whose goal in extra time proved to be the only one of the game and sealed a second World Cup title for Spain. Discipline had already started to unravel before the full-time whistle. Chelsea midfielder Enzo Fernandez was sent off late in normal time for picking up 2 yellow cards. Leandro Paredes, who'd come on as a halftime substitute, was already walking a tightrope himself after being booked earlier in the second half. That's the football context. Now here's where it turns ugly. The moment the referee blew the final whistle, Spain's bench and substitutes sprinted onto the pitch in celebration, as you'd expect from a team that had just won the World Cup. But that's when things started to spiral. Argentina defender Nahuel Molina appeared to strike out at Spain captain Rodri as the Spanish players ran past him in celebration. Rodri stopped, turned back, and squared up to Molina, shouting and bumping him in the chest. That confrontation is what pulled Eric Garcia into the situation. The Spanish defender stepped in to get between his captain and Molina. That's when Leandro Paredes arrived. According to widely circulated broadcast footage, Paredes went straight for Garcia, grabbing him around the throat and shoving him backwards, just as Argentina head coach Lionel Scaloni tried to intervene and separate the two. Paredes wasn't finished. He then turned his attention to Gavi, Spain's 21-year-old midfielder, who was already tangled up with Argentina's Thiago Almada. Paredes grabbed Gavi by his substitute's bib, spun him around, and wrestled him to the ground, appearing to push into his face while he had him pinned. Several of Spain's teammates rushed over to shield him and pull Paredes away, with Spain forward Borja Iglesias among those who physically crashed into Paredes to break it up. It didn't stop there either. Footage also appeared to show Argentina assistant coach Daniel Ayala striking Spain midfielder Dani Olmo during the same chaotic passage of play, meaning this wasn't just a player-on-player flashpoint, it pulled in coaching staff too. By the time order was restored, referee Slavko Vincic reached for a red card and sent Paredes off, a rare case of a player being dismissed after the full-time whistle had already gone. Scaloni was left trying to physically hold back and calm down his own players and staff, while Spain's celebrations, understandably, carried on in the background. Argentina came into this World Cup as champions. They left it with their captain and coaching staff dragging players away from a brawl on the biggest stage in the sport. Unsurprisingly, this dominated the post-match analysis. Two of the biggest voices in British football punditry, Gary Neville and Alan Shearer, didn't hold back. Alan Shearer was blunt about what he'd seen from Paredes, describing it as someone throwing genuine punches at an opponent's face and saying flatly that there is no place in the game for that kind of behavior. Shearer's tone throughout was one of real disgust, not the usual handbags framing pundits sometimes use for post-match flashpoints, but a direct accusation that this crossed into violent conduct. Gary Neville was similarly scathing, focusing not just on Paredes individually, but on the wider picture, a team that had just lost the World Cup final unraveling into ugly scenes instead of accepting the result. For two pundits who've seen decades of ill-tempered finishes to big matches, the language they used, disgraceful, unacceptable, tells you how far outside the norm this was viewed. It's worth noting, this isn't the first time this Argentina squad has been at the center of post-match controversy at this tournament. There had already been noise around the political banner displayed by some Argentina players after the semifinal win over England, which FIFA's disciplinary committee was already reviewing separately. So by the time the final rolled around, there was already a narrative forming about Argentina's on and off field conduct, and Sunday night's brawl poured fuel directly onto that fire. If you were anywhere near football social media in the hours after the final, you saw this. The clip of Paredes squaring up to Garcia, then throwing Gavi to the turf, spread almost instantly, repurposed into slow motion breakdowns, reaction videos, and heated debate threads within minutes of the final whistle. The tone across the board was overwhelmingly critical of Argentina. Fans who might otherwise have been debating tactics or Spain's title win instead found themselves debating whether Paredes should face a multi-match ban, whether this reflects a pattern of indiscipline from this Argentina squad specifically, and whether the punishment being discussed is severe enough given what was actually caught on camera. There's also a secondary current running through the reaction. Frustration that a genuinely good football tournament and a hard-fought final is now going to be remembered, at least in the short term, for a post-match scuffle rather than for Spain's achievement in winning it. Ferran Torres scored the winning goal in a World Cup final, and it's barely being talked about. So here's the part everyone wants to know. What happens to Paredes and to Argentina now? Because the incident happened at a FIFA tournament, the FIFA Disciplinary Committee automatically reviews the referee's match report and available video evidence anytime a red card like this is issued. Paredes' dismissal for violent conduct carries an automatic minimum suspension under FIFA's rules. But minimum is doing a lot of work in that sentence, because the committee has the power to extend it well beyond a single match given the nature of what happened. Under FIFA's disciplinary code, violent conduct involving contact and grabbing an opponent by the throat clearly qualifies, is treated far more seriously than a standard second yellow dismissal. There's also the matter of exactly how many matches Paredes will actually have to sit out, since the World Cup is now over. FIFA's regulations state that any suspension which can't be served during the tournament itself carries over to the national team's next official fixture, meaning Paredes could be facing a ban that follows Argentina into their next competitive fixtures, whenever those are. Enzo Fernandez's red card, by contrast, was a much more routine 2-yellow dismissal, and he's expected to serve a standard 1-match ban without further complication. As of the time of this video, FIFA has confirmed the incident is under review, but has not yet announced the final length of Paredes' suspension, or whether other players or staff, including that assistant coach seen appearing to strike Dani Olmo, will face separate disciplinary action. Given the scale of the reaction, though, and given that FIFA was already scrutinizing this Argentina squad's conduct from earlier in the tournament, few expect them to treat this lightly. There's also a broader question hanging over Argentina as a federation. FIFA has, in the past, sanctioned national federations, not just individual players, for failing to maintain order around matches. Whether that's on the table here remains to be seen, but it's clearly part of the conversation given how this tournament has gone for Argentina off the field. Step back from the individual flashpoints for a second, and there's a bigger story here about this Argentina squad's tournament as a whole. They arrived as defending champions and ground out results in a way that suggested a team feeling the pressure of the crown rather than playing with the freedom of one. The political banner controversy after the England game, the failure to register a single shot on target in the final itself, and now this. For Scaloni, the image of him trying to physically separate his own players and staff from a brawl moments after losing the World Cup final is not the way any manager wants their tournament to end. Champions or not. Whatever happens with the disciplinary process, the immediate legacy of this final, for Argentina at least, is going to be defined by those chaotic scenes rather than anything that happened in the 120 minutes before it. For Spain, meanwhile, a well-earned second World Cup title risks being overshadowed in the immediate aftermath, though history tends to be kinder to winners than to the fallout around them. In a week, this will likely be remembered as Spain's tournament. Right now, though, it's Paredes' name in the headlines. So that's where things stand. Spain, world champions for a second time. Argentina heading home with their captainless final whistle chaos as the lasting image, and Leandro Paredes facing what could be a lengthy ban once FIFA's disciplinary committee finishes its review. We'll keep tracking this story as FIFA's decision comes through, so if you want the update the moment it drops, you know what to do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.